Saturday with a triple header starting with the Magic and Bucks on ESPN at 3:30. Of course, that was the game that was postponed on Wednesday, which started everything that followed. Bucks trying to close out the series. Nightcap will be the Blazers and the Lakers. LA looking to close it out. Portland is without Dame Lillard, who's got that knee injury. NBA PA Executive Director Michelle Roberts, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver released a joint statement on the agreement to resume the playoffs. League and players agreed to immediately establish a social justice coalition with representatives from players, coaches, and governors. League arenas will be converted into voting sites for the upcoming general election as an option for communities vulnerable to coronavirus, and voting information will be promoted during game broadcasts throughout the playoffs.
It was never about one person. It was never about one team. It was all about all of us together. When the events happened the other day of the game, we stood in solidarity with our brothers from Milwaukee. We needed some time to refocus and understand, that we can do that. We're human.
I know we've heard, because once the NBA stopped, everything else stopped. And to me, that shows a lot. That shows the platform, that shows the power of us as players, and our voices were heard.
We're a long way away from seeing the change and making the change that we really want to see and we really want to make. But with that being said, you have to take small victories as they come. As there's no time to give up now. We got to continue to fight this fight.
Tumultuous 48 hours inside the bubble in Orlando. Malika Andrews, who's been there throughout, joins us now. Malika, as best as you can describe, how do you think the players arrived at the conclusion and the decision that continuing together was the best plan?
Well, the discussions amongst players, Scott, was where will our voices be heard the loudest and across the most platforms in the most places. And there was a group of players who felt that if they did not stay here in the bubble, that they should be in Wisconsin. And this is players that weren't even on the Bucks, because they viewed that as the, quote, front lines of this fight right now. But ultimately, the platform in Orlando in the bubble was too big for them to pass up.
We understand how strong our voice is, how powerful our voice is, and ultimately we decided if we go away from this stage, we don't necessarily have that same platform. So we stood in solidarity. We're going to continue to play, but we're also going to continue to make sure that our voices are heard.
And Scott, you just heard Russell Westbrook also say that he knows they were heard, right? Because when they stopped, the world stopped in many ways, or at least the sports world stopped, looked, paused, and reflected. But their next step, players don't just want their voices to be heard. They want people who look like them to also be heard. And one of the ways they're doing that is through voting. The NBA and NBPA announced today, as you know, that arenas around the league are going to be converted into places where people can go and vote. And remember that in the 2016 elections, black voter turnout was extremely low. Coronavirus is making it so voting is harder, and coronavirus is also disproportionately affecting black and brown communities. So it was really important to these players to make sure they did their part to make sure that folks who don't have this platform, who do look like them, are able to have their voices heard in that specific way and to continue to make tangible, actionable changes. And that was one of them that was really important to players.
Malika, the last thought I have is more for you and how best you could reflect being where you are. And I think we all on the outside of the bubble have an understanding that it must be incredibly difficult, and how these last couple of days have maybe been a reset for everybody to think about what these causes were and how much they meant to these players. Is that a fair representation?
I think so. I said the other day that I think there are people who are working to make history and people who are working to chronicle history, and I am lucky to be a chronicler, and I stand by that. I believe my job here is to continue to amplify fact, to amplify truth, to speak truth to power, and to make sure that players' truths are being heard. And so by being in that space the last couple of days, that's really what has helped me through what has been hard, because I am a black woman, Scott. These things affect me too, but my role here today, tomorrow, yesterday, and the day before is to make sure that the players' truths are getting out, that objective truths are being heard, and that's what I'm here to do.
It's a career in many ways just beginning, Malika, and your trajectory is remarkable. You're doing work that we're proud of. Well done.
Thank you. I'm proud to be your colleague, Scott.
The Big Ten, who pulled the plug on fall football August 11th, is considering starting a season around Thanksgiving, according to reports. So winter rather than spring season, the goal there being not impacting the fall 2021 season. I'm all for that. Hopefully there will be fall football for everyone then. This week, 8 Nebraska players filed a lawsuit to try to overturn the Big Ten's decision to cancel the season. But unfortunately, lawsuits and parents writing letters and the president tweeting aren't going to get us Big Ten football this fall. But maybe Thanksgiving. And I can't say this more clearly. This is nonsense. How the hell are you going to not play in the fall but start in November at Thanksgiving? While the season with teams who are going to start in September is still going and it's marching towards its playoff. Just think it through. You can't do that. No. See, we're playing for the old Oak and Bucket and Floyd of Rosedale and Paul Bunyan's axe. Cool, have fun with the pig trophy. We're playing for the championship trophy, you know? You can't start the season with the other one coming down to its most important games. You would be taunting yourself. Why not play in late September when everyone else does if you're going to try to start at Thanksgiving? I don't think it would happen, though, because the presidents in the Big Ten who shot down the season in the first place would have to okay it. Meanwhile, if they couldn't play because they were worried about lawsuits, how did you allow all these students to come back to campus and go to school? Oh, right, because you can charge them the full boat for the semester. Games resumed Friday, announcing in a tweet, games resumed tonight. The fight for justice and equality never stops. Sparks and Sun. Candace Parker, kind enough to stop by and join us on our show once again. And Candace, you've accomplished every single thing that can be accomplished in this sport. You've seen the highest of highs. You've done it all. I wonder when you look back on your time in basketball at these last 48 hours with your sisters and the brothers, too, that are part of this WNBA family. What do you think you'll remember most proudly?
You know, being a part of this moment, using our voice, standing beside my sisters, standing beside my brothers, and doing it together. I think that's the biggest thing. You look at the history of time, and there's always been one or two that has put themselves on the line. And to be able to be a part of leagues that stand by each other's side, stand for equality, and demand it, it's really special to be a part of.
I just feel like there's just been so many moments and thoughts and collective statements that have been made and gestures that have been made that are, they create hope. You know what I'm saying? I keep coming back to that word throughout, whether it's been the pandemic or what's going on socially since then. I feel like we look for hope, and I feel like I found it. Have you?
I think it's there. I think everybody kind of leans on their family and their ancestors and what they would want. Right. And we kind of climb on the back of what they've done, and we reap the benefits for what they've done. And so now when I look at my daughter, I look at my nieces, my nephews, and I know that I have hope because I know they're going to get it better than we've gotten it. And we've gotten it pretty good. As African-American women, we're not standing behind our NBA brothers. We're standing right next to
with them.
And I think that that's where we want to be. We want to have a seat at the table, and you know, this is a time to fight for that and to have an action plan.
All of this feels so much more important than basketball. But Candace, your job's to play basketball, and you and your team are playing it well. I mean, as you take the issues that are at the fore and move them to the side to do your job, you guys are doing your job well. Like, how do you keep your eyes on what you're trying to do with the Sparks?
You know, I think it's passion. Scott, this year has been tough for a lot of different people. And just from a basketball standpoint, I mean, losing Kobe Bryant, it was a huge loss for not just the NBA, but for the WNBA. I mean, you talk about the amount of dedication and hours and support that he gave the women's game. And so this year, just really focusing on what you can control, having that Mamba mentality every night when you step on the court, even when you don't want to, bringing it. And I think that's been kind of our mindset coming into this bubble, is that, you know, we have an opportunity every time we step on the court, and, you know, we're going to take advantage of it.
I want to close with this. You're great at what you do, and then you go do the TV bit, and it's ridiculous. You're great at that, and you're a full-time mama, which is the most important job. How do you make certain in all of with all this stuff swirling around, and it has been a tough time, Candace, that you make time for you so that your mind is right, your heart is right? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you able to carve out time just for you in the midst of all your jobs?
I try to. I'm going to tell you one thing, Scott. Just from being in television, you are damn good at your job. And I just want to say that. I know I've been wanting to tell you, just watching, and I know you're looking around, but you are unbelievable at your job. And so keep inspiring. I mean, people like myself coming up in television, we really respect the way that I'm watching your show. Sometimes I watch it back to back, and my family gets mad that my me time happens to involve Scott. So you're unbelievable at your job, and you're really an inspiration for everybody that's aspiring to be on television.
Well, I'm not really very good at taking compliments. In fact, I'm terrible at it. But you know what I'm going to do? Because, seriously, from you, that means the world. But I really, really can't thank you enough for saying that. But you keep doing what you're doing, because you inspire across the board on all these different levels. You're a light. There's my guy Tony Finau, who plays on the PGA Tour, talks about being a light. You're that, Candace. So stay bright and keep shining. I appreciate you. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.